call this board meeting to order. All board members are present. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Lisa, second by Jason. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. First up, discussion. We are here tonight to discuss a superintendent search firm, and we're interviewing two different companies. And there was a subcommittee, you guys kind of figured this out while I was gone at the last board meeting, but basically a ad hoc subcommittee was appointed to review all the proposals that came in from the RFP that we released on our April 23rd board meeting. And it was narrowed down, and we have two firms here tonight to interview and share their proposals.
Would you like me to go get the first firm?
That'd be great.
I'd be happy to do that.
That'd be great. Am I missing anything from the process so far? Okay.
There was actually a third one that they recommended, and that one dropped out.
Yeah, that was Boy.
Yes. That's what I saw in the notes anyway.
Okay. So we had 6 applicants, is that correct? And it was narrowed down to 3?
Might have been 5.
Oh, 5, okay. Narrowed down to 3.
Yeah.
And then we have 2 here tonight. Okay, great. So John will grab our first firm.
Special part of town. Get yourself at home.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Paul Redshaw.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Lisa Damon.
Hi, Lisa.
Nice to meet you.
Vic. Hi, I'm Lynn Shen. Hi.
Hi, Lisa Damon.
Hi, Lisa.
Sarah Hoffman?
Hi, Ken.
He's a fuck this day.
How do you do? Hi, David Vic. Good to see you again. Lynn, nice to meet you.
Kara Hobbin.
Carol, David,
Nice to meet you.
You bet.
Thank you, Judy.
Yeah, all right. Hi, we met out, yeah, you bet. Thank you. Hi, David Vic. Nice to meet you.
Welcome, thank you so much for coming, especially on a nice night.
Hey, it's gorgeous out.
I know.
Nice drive.
But we appreciate it. We're really excited to have you here and learn more about your company and what you guys have to offer. So, do you have anything that you want to?
No, I think I know both of these gentlemen, and I'm very excited to hear their presentation. And I probably know too much about them, so I'm just going to leave it before I go from there.
Trying to successful way back when. So, well, thank you. I'm Ken Dragseth, and I'm president of the company. And just a little introduction myself, and Dave will tell a little bit about himself. I spent my career in Edina, and the last 14 years I was superintendent there, and I started doing searches basically about 2005. So I've done personally probably 55 searches in Minnesota and western Wisconsin. And I've been involved in searches in central Minnesota a lot. We did Sartell, Sauk Rapids, Rice, St. Cloud, Willmar, Buffalo, Little Falls, Brainerd, Grand Rapids, Elk River. So we've done a whole bunch of districts, when I say, in this area, understand the area, and we've had the superintendents we placed are all still there doing a good job. So this is a very attractive area for people to come to. And then I spent 8 years at the University of Minnesota running their administrative licensure program, and retired from that a couple years ago, and now run the company and do mainly my work in Minnesota.
I'm David Vick, an associate with School Exec Connect. As I drove up here, I grabbed a right colored folder. And then as I pulled out my phone, I got the color scheme going anyway. Anyway, I bring about 40 years of working in a variety of districts in Minnesota and also as superintendent in Illinois. I worked with another search firm prior to coming to SEC, and I've been involved in searches in 4 different states. I've done the normal route of teacher, principal, assistant superintendent, superintendent, so I've kind of been up through the different pieces of the district. We've worked with Aldous Sokoli, a friend of John knows well, and that has nothing to do with Rocori search, but anyway, it's just a common friend that we have in college. And right in north of Brainerd, a nice piece of land up there. So I'm right in the middle of central Minnesota and readily available to help. And at this point in time, this is our only search in Minnesota, so we would be able to put 100% of our effort. Sometimes the firms get stretched around quite a bit, but we're ready to work on Rocori.
Great.
I'll talk a little bit about our process, and you get a sense of what that is, and then whatever questions, we can go from there.
Okay,
So,
great.
well, first of all, our company is predicated on the fact that we want to find outstanding superintendents that will stay in your district for a period of time, and that we go out, and our process then would be to meet with you immediately if we were selected, try to meet with you, next week if possible, to put together a plan for the whole process. In other words, a timeline.
One of the things I was going to say is the two of the schools that connect are here. So when you're ready to start and get them going, I'll go ahead and get them and bring them in. And they're both have experience in the Denver Public Schools, by the way. One is the ex-superintendent there, the other one was an assistant and a principal there for a number of years, and they're part of the team. So, and the one lives in Brainerd now, so it's kind of a nice fit for him. So, and they'll bring, I'm sure they have materials with them, but if they don't, we'll run out and make sure we have copies of what you need.
And I think they scanned.
Yeah, I think they're there.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Is everyone ready? Shannon?
No, I'm not. I don't know, it must
There's
not be.
really not much.
I know, I'm not too worried about it.
Sounds good. Okay. All right. I call this board meeting to order. All board members are present. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Lisa, second by Jason. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The agenda is approved. First up, discussion. We are here tonight to discuss a superintendent search firm, and we're interviewing 2 different companies. And there was a subcommittee, you guys kind of figured this out while I was gone at the last board meeting, but basically a ad hoc subcommittee was appointed to review all the proposals that came in from the RFP that we released on our April 23rd board meeting, and it was narrowed down, and we have 2 firms here tonight to interview and share their proposals.
Would you like me to go get the first firm?
That'd be great.
Be happy to do that.
That'd be great. Am I missing anything from the process so far? Okay.
There was actually a third one that they recommended, and that one dropped out.
Yeah, that was Roy.
Yes. That's what I saw in the notes anyway.
Okay. So we had 6 applicants, is that correct? And it was narrowed down to 3?
Might have been 5.
Oh, 5, okay. Narrowed down to 3,
Yeah.
and then we have 2 here tonight. Okay, great. So John will grab our first firm.
Get yourself at home.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Ken Drake Smith.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Lisa Damon. Hi, Lisa. Nice to meet you.
Vic.
And Lynn Shen.
Hi, Lisa Damon.
Hi.
Sarah Hoffman.
Ken.
He's a truck with that.
How you doing?
Hi, David Vick. Good to see you again. Nice to meet you. Excited for you.
Kara Hoffman.
Carol, David,
Nice to meet you.
You bet.
Thank you, Julie.
Right. Hi, we met out, yeah, you bet. Hi, David Vick. Nice to meet you.
Welcome, thank you so much for coming, especially on a nice night.
Hey, it's gorgeous out.
I know.
Nice drive.
But we appreciate it. We're really excited to have you here and learn more about your company and what you guys have to offer. So, do you have anything that you want to?
No, I think I knew both of these gentlemen, and I'm very excited to hear their presentation, and I probably know too much about them, so I'm just going to leave it and let it go from there.
Brand successful, way back when, so. Well, thank you. I said I'm Ken Dragseth, and I'm president of the company, and just a little introduction herself, and Dave will tell a little bit about himself. I spent my career in Edina, and I was, the last 14 years, I was superintendent there, and I started doing searches basically in about 2005. So I've done personally probably 55 searches in Minnesota and western Wisconsin. And I've been involved in searches in central Minnesota a lot. We did Sartell, Sauk Rapids, Rice, St. Cloud, Willmar, Buffalo, Little Falls, Brainerd, Grand Rapids, Elk River. So we've done a whole bunch of districts, let's say, in this area, understand the area, and we've had the superintendents we placed are all still there doing a good job. So this is a very attractive area for people to come to. And then I spent 8 years at the University of Minnesota running their administrative licensure program, and retired from that a couple years ago, and now run the company and do mainly my work in Minnesota.
I'm David Vick, an associate with School Exec Connect. As I drove up here, I grabbed a right colored folder. And then as I pulled out my phone, I got the color scheme going anyway. Anyway, I bring about 40 years of working in a variety of districts in Minnesota, and also a superintendent in Illinois. I worked with another search firm prior to coming to SEC, and I've been involved in searches in 4 different states. I've done the normal route of teacher, principal, assistant superintendent, superintendent, so I've kind of been up through the different pieces of the district. We've worked with Aldous Sokoli, a friend of John, knows well, and that has nothing to do with Rocori search, but anyway, it's just a common friend that we have and a colleague. And right in north of Brainerd, a nice piece of land up there. So I'm right in the middle of central Minnesota, and readily available to help. And at this point in time, this is our only search in Minnesota, so we would be able to put 100% of our effort. Sometimes the firms get stretched around quite a bit, but we're ready to work on Rocori.
Great.
You know, I'll talk a little bit about our process, and you get a sense of what that is, and then whatever questions we can go from there.
Okay,
So,
great.
well, first of all, our company is predicated on the fact that we want to find outstanding superintendents that will stay in your district for a period of time, and that we go out, and our process then would be to meet with you immediately. If we were selected, try to meet with you, next week if possible, to put together a plan for the whole process. In other words, a timeline. People come from other parts of the country that are warm, and then they come up here, and 3 years later they're gone, because the wife doesn't like it, or the husband doesn't like it, or the kids don't like the weather, and So we want to be honest with people, you know. So-
The other part about working on the search in the district here, you get kind of excited about these people that are going to come in and be your superintendent, and you want them to do well. So it's real easy to want to be the mentor for them, and I circle back to the one I did in Barron, Wisconsin here a year ago, and I mean, she just, it's going fine for her, and but how's it going? You know, you kind of get vested in them, and you want them to be successful, because you suspect there's a good match, and you want the superintendent to do well, because then it's probably going to be best for kids.
And it's easier for you.
Can I ask one more question? How soon would you post the thing? Even though you're going to do the profile and stuff, you would get the message out
Right.
ASAP?
Yeah, right, and there's a number of ways places we post. Obviously, we go on our website right away, so, and what we put together is sort of a fact sheet about your district, and I already looked at your website today, and, you know, I got your financial information, I got what your, you know, kind of your curriculum and whatever, so I could put that together within a day, you know, basically. And that's a posting thing that would go on our website. It would go to MASA, which we have a license with, so it would go right there, no cost to you. It will go MSBA, that's no cost to you. And then if you want to go, you know, we talk about that at a time. If you want to go farther, that would extend outside of Minnesota and outside of our own Midwest site for our School Exec Connect. It's about, if you want to go to ASA, which is the national organization, you would do a 4-week online for about $490. You can do Education Week, which is the magazine that practically all administrators look at and look at jobs and so on. You can do an online one there. I think the last time I looked was like $417. So within $1,000, you can get nationally. You don't have to take out an ad in some, you know, huge cost somewhere else. So that's something you don't have to decide tonight. Or if we were lucky enough to get the job, we would say, all right, what do you want to do? But we'll do the free ones right away and get that out. And we do that right away. As soon as we know that we would have to figure out, we can add that later, but we need, that's why we need a planning meeting to say, okay, when do we want to interview, you know, when are the dates, and what's going to fit for you, and, you know, all of those kind of things, getting the details done. So candidates know that they have to apply by X date, and that they better keep the dates open in case they get interviewed, you know, so that kind of thing.
We may have answered this, but do candidates pay you to help them find jobs?
No, we do not. We take no payment from anybody for getting them a job. We are not, we are not an agent for anybody applying for the job. We only work for school boards. And we take no money from anybody. And we've had people, you know, so would you know, I'll give you $1,000, help me find a job. That is not what we do. You can find somebody else if you want to, that's up to you, but that's not our job. Our job is to work with school boards to find a superintendent.
I know that it's, you know, ultimately the board's decision, but it is important to gather feedback from the people that work in our buildings and our community members.
Right.
What is your process for scooping that up and making it meaningful?
Okay, there's two things we do. The first thing, if we were here, we would want to set up meetings with the different groups I talked about, and we'll ask them the same 5 questions that we would ask you in individual interviews, and then we do all that profile. That's the first part of it. When the last interviews that we have, we would set up, usually it's an all-day process, and they would come, do a tour of the district, and then we would set them up with meetings with, you know, say representative teachers, representative students, representative, or all your administrative staff, any other, you know, parent groups, or whatever groups you have. Every district has different groups that they wanted them to meet. And then they would meet with them, they would talk a little bit about themselves, and then it's just 3 questions. At the session, we have a feedback form that says, you know, how does this person match up with the profile? We give them the profile. How does this person match up with the profile? What are some concerns or issues you have about this candidate? And what do you want the board to know? So at the end of that day, before you do your final interview with them, all that would be copied, and every board member get everything that everybody says. And so you may have 100 pages or 50 pages of data, and I said, don't worry about it, because these people don't write theses. I'm concerned about his lack of technology experience, or whatever, I really love him, I think he'll match, or whatever, that's the kind of stuff you get. But you get feedback from all the groups, and you can have that feedback before you interview that night, and if there's some big concern that keeps coming up, from different groups, then usually one of the board members will say, dig into it, and try to get it. So we want them involved, and we want it to be their input to you, and we keep telling every group, it's a board decision, like you just said, but they want your input. And they're eventually going to have to make the decision. They're the ones who have to hire the person. And that's probably been one of the strongest things that districts we work with are happy about. There's two things that happen. One is that the community feels involved, and they feel like they're part of the process, and it's not just the board secretly doing it, and all of a sudden, here's this person. The second thing is, the person gets to know a whole bunch of people, and all these people get to know who this person is. So when they walk in the first day, they have head contacts with maybe 150 people, it depends on what groups they talk to. And the people know, oh yeah, I remember Sue, I remember John, and yeah, I really liked them, I'm glad they're coming, and boy, it's going to be good to work with them, versus who is this person? And so we have never done a search where we didn't have feedback and input by different groups in the district, and because we just think it's so valuable.
And you also said community groups.
Yeah, community.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, right.
District and then.
Staff and community.
Yeah, staff and community.
Chamber,
Yep.
And we always do students, a lot of districts don't, or a lot of firms don't, but you get, and it's typically high school students, because they've been through the system and they have a better understanding how that goes. Boy, some of the best interviewers have been, and they get right to the heart of things, and they'll give you good feedback, and they'll tell you what they think, so.
Does anybody have any questions? I guess the one last question I have is, you'll help us developing a profile and recruiting and going through the interview process and all of those kind of logistics.
Right.
Through contract negotiations?
Yes, right,
Okay.
yes. We're not done until that contract has been approved by the board.
Okay.
Yeah, and so typically, we work, with you as a board chair, or if you have an HR person, depends on the district and how they do it, to do that. If you want comparables, with districts around, we can do that.
Okay.
Sometimes the HR person already has that because they've been doing negotiations. It varies by district, but we would say, what do you need? And then, put a pretty much standard contract together, and so on.
And then do you have, and I don't know if this covers your secondary, your mentorship piece, but setting up the candidate for success as far as community meetings or introducing the candidate to the community, or I know John will be able to provide some advice on that, but do you, or then just start, here's your story.
We're not,
and all the assistants and principals and so on came in, and they're, so we give them a little advice too. You guys got to shake it up here and get moving, and you may be good back home, but you got to convince. They don't know you at all, right?
You got to re-Annie, that's the one I always look at.
Yeah, you got 1 hour to get to the next step, and that's part of our responsibilities. And the other thing, we're going to be with you during these interviews. Another firm I worked with, we introduced them and then we left the room, and I felt we lost something when we did that, because when you started expressing concerns later, I didn't know what those concerns were.
That's a good point, Dave, is that we are here for every interview that you are doing, and that's to make sure that it all goes legally and everything goes fine, but also to assist the process with the candidates. And we're here, like I said, till you put a contract and approve it at a board meeting.
Yeah, we'll assist you. Once you get to that final, who's on first, who's on who's last, we'll assist you to get through that process. We'll sit here, not necessarily referee, but we've had to do that sometimes too, I have to admit. But we'll help you get through that so that when it's all said and done, you're still friends, and you're still going to work together. But they can get dicey sometimes, you know, if things are not going your way kind of thing.
Yeah,
But we're here to assist with that.
great.
Can I ask one last
Yeah,
question?
please, yeah.
So your fee is higher than BKB.
Okay.
What sets you apart from BKB, and why should we pick you for that extra cost?
No, I understand that, yeah. I think, a couple things right off the bat. We've done more searches in Minnesota than any firm in the last 10 years. We've done major, you know, other than Minneapolis, St. Paul, we've done Duluth, Rochester, you know, Brainerd. We've done major districts to districts of 500 in Minnesota, and we've done the whole gamut. We know people, we've had success in that process. Our fee's probably a little more than BKB because our process is pretty extensive. We got 2 people working full-time making this thing work, and we want it, you know, we want it to be, our state boards, $5,000 difference, and you got a superintendent that isn't what you want, is nothing. It's just chaos. I mean, we're going to work our tail off, and that's what it costs. It takes time, you know, to find these people, to work these people, to get all the stuff, to do all the connections that we do. And I know, it's expensive. I know in Minneapolis paper today, they want to hire a park board person. That was $80,000 to $100,000 for the search. I mean, this is ridiculous in my mind that they do that, but it's something.
If you get a superintendent, going to say 5 to 10 years, and you take whatever the fee is, divide it by 5 or 10, and you know it's not that expensive an expenditure to help find a good leader for your district. So if you kind of prorate it over time, you're just stuck right now. You've got to do something. But if you take and run that over time, it's not all that expensive.
Well, I think, you know, in this area, if you say School Exec Connect is doing the search, you have a lot of communities around that say, oh yeah, they did ours, and we got a really good superintendent. So your credibility in this area, you can ask any of these districts, you know, and our credibility is solid. You're not, you know, you want this or this, you know, I mean, it's a reputation that we build and we work on.
And we mentioned earlier that right now this is kind of the solo right now.
Yeah.
I mean, in this particular area,
Yeah.
this would be the
And
only
this,
school.
it's late in the season, we've done a lot already this year that are done, you know, and now, and this came up, you know, and so it makes it good for us, we're ready to go, you know, and we're here, and we got time, and we got energy, and
Very good timing at our end. Yep.
Great. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for inviting us.
Really appreciate it. You're
Thank you.
very thorough in the information and really helpful. So, do you have anything?
One thing I was going to say too, I imagine you guys want, what's the next step?
yeah.
And I would assume, I don't want to speak for the board, but I assume what we'll do tonight is we'll convene after the interviews, and the board will hopefully make a decision. And if they do take action, it's on the agenda, and the firm that's selected will notify them. And I assume it would be probably my responsibility.
You can call my number, John.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah,
I have your number.
Yep, you have my number. Good.
And then, if that would be the case, we'd like to be included Monday night to get that calendar planning meeting put together.
Yeah, we can do that.
So we
And
get,
so we get going. if we're gonna do
and you
it.
get your dates locked in for your own family needs and so on too.
Perfect.
Sound good?
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was really nice meeting you. Yeah. Thank you.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good question. I do know where Maryfield is. I say I know where Maryfield is. I've driven to that a few times.
Maryfield, oh yeah, good country.
Where were you in Illinois?
I was in Lake Bluff, Illinois, right next door to Lake Forest, right on
North?
north. Yes.
I lived in Joliet.
Oh, yeah.
I lived in Wilmington, or Bolingbrook and Westchester.
Yeah, no, well, great stop for me. It was the best thing I did, go down there.
Nice area.
Should we have a little bit of a recess while we bring the next candidate in? Okay. So I'm just gonna call a recess. Give them a shot. Where?
Brad?
We're just gonna recess for a little bit so you can.
Ed, easy to forget.
No, not once I saw you.
Oh, I think you all recognize Dr. Robichaud, Jerry. And Jerry just returned from Norway, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
A little over a week ago.
well, we're in recess, so let's call the meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, fine. Welcome back, Jerry. Thank you.
Thank you.
So go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Back over to you. No.
Are you okay?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're on camera.
Are we on? We're ready? There we go.
All right.
Jerry, welcome. Glad to have you back. And
Thank you.
I think the board remembers that you were here once before to give them just a primer of about the timeline and how things would work in a search too. And your firm submitted a proposal, and the board has a proposal. They took a look at it, and there are two finalists for the search, and BKB is one of those. So I think you know everybody here, and
Thank you.
know all the names, but I'll turn it over to you and to our board chair.
Great. Yeah. No, we're really great to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Thank you for the invitation. And as Dr. Tyne indicated, I just returned from Norway a little over a week ago. And I'll tell you, it's a beautiful country. I do some work with a small university. They too were upset by the lateness of the spring. They had a lot of snow yet in the mountains and somewhat on the ground, and yet, they're complaining about a late spring is far different than the way we complain about a late spring. They're still out skiing and hiking and biking and walking and enjoying the winter. But I've been over there about 4 different times, and every time I go over there, it's just a wonderful place to be. Just a little side story, if I may. And I know this is intruding in my time for the presentation, I apologize for that, but the community that I go to is called Nesna, Norway, and it's in the northern part of Norway. It's a municipality of about 1,900 residents. They have a small university of about 700 students, so it is very small. But they have one police officer who does not carry a gun, who rides a bike. So it's a very, very safe community, and that's the way Norway is, and it's just very, very beneficial. So I know you have a proposal, and what I've done is I've just taken the liberty to develop a small, almost as long as a proposal, but an executive summary. And once it's around, I will walk through it. And what I would like to do is I would invite you at any time. I know that there will be opportunity at the end for questions and responses from me. However, I would invite you at any time during my presentation to please ask for clarification or any thoughts that you may have regarding the proposal. Let me first of all tell you that this, I think I shared this with you when I was here the last time. This will be one of the most critical decisions you as a school board will make. For those of you that have not participated, I know you did participate in this search. I don't think the others have yet at this point. But it's an exciting opportunity for board members, and yet it's very challenging. And so I would strongly encourage you, whichever firm you select, certainly hope it's BKB, that you work with them diligently in developing the profile for the superintendent and the time necessary to do this. It is time consuming, but being able to identify that person who's ever going to present the leadership to this district is a critical decision that you as a board will make. Just to go through the executive summary, we have done searches for a number of years, BKB has, and we provide those professional services to boards of education throughout the state of Minnesota. Each board will personally tailor their expectations of the next superintendent of schools. For you as the board of Rocori Schools, you have your own perceptions and constructs of what you're going to be looking for. So the individual who comes to provide the leadership here at Rocori is going to be the individual whom you are looking for, who has those characteristics, those attributes, and those dispositions relating to the leadership you're looking for. So it's unique to Rocori. There's no rubber stamp for a superintendent in the state of Minnesota. It is unique to what you folks want, and your community, and your staff, stakeholders want as it relates to the next leader of this school district.
In bold, I want to make sure that you're aware of the fact that we make every effort to ensure that equal opportunity and affirmative action guidelines are fully applied. Also, we comply as appropriate with all personnel policies of the Rocori School District. Whatever we have is relating to personnel policies. We want to be cognizant of those, and we want to be sure that we're in compliance with your policies. We don't want to go out and recruit and talk to somebody and give them misinformation regarding the policies or the practices of the Rocori School. So we want to make sure that that's very clear as we go through the process. Not that I'm going to, if I'm selected, if our firm is selected, then I'm going to sit down and read every one of your policies, but I'll certainly go through at least the personnel ones. They're probably online, so I can do that to be sure that what I'm telling candidates complies with what you're looking for here in Rocori. The consultants that will be involved, I will function as the lead consultant. 40 years of public school experience, conducted over 25 searches over the last few years. I believe I shared this with you when I was here before, that I'm currently a coordinator of administrative credentialing for Concordia University, St. Paul, also a faculty for the Doctorate of Education Leadership Studies in Concordia. Professor Emeritus from Minnesota State University, Mankato. I was acting executive director of the Minnesota Board of School Administrators, which is the governing body that governs and licensing school administrators. Interim superintendent for East Metro Integration District, superintendent of Grove Heights and Thief River Falls, and then a number of administrative duties. One of the points that I'd like to make here is you can see that the majority of my administrative duties has been in outstate Minnesota. I consider Fairville outstate. In Thief River Falls, yes, I was superintendent in the suburb of St. Paul and have worked there, but have been very, very familiar with outstate functions of school districts. Also, just for information, while I've been on higher ed, I have done publishing in school leadership, in equity, in ethics. As a matter of fact, on Saturday, I'm presenting to a group of aspiring superintendents at the Minnesota Association of School Administrators regarding ethics. Probably my first really extensive recruiting process that I will do for Rocori on Saturday while I'm at Minnesota administration. Brian Betcher, who is another consultant, you probably won't see much of Brian. He pretty much does the office work, if you will, and I do the site work. Services provided, I will develop in collaboration with the board those criteria and qualifications which the board expects of the new superintendent. Again, there is no cookie cutter. There's no, you take this plan and apply it to this district. It is unique to Rocori, and that's what their qualifications and the criteria have to be for your next superintendent. Prepare brochures if necessary and requested by the board. Develop a leadership profile, vacancy announcements. We take care of all the logistics that it relates to getting the position out into the public and soliciting candidates. And a thorough search for potential candidates, and I'll get to that in just a few minutes. Develop substantial efforts in recruiting, selecting a group of candidates for presentation to the board as semi-finalists. We also do a background check of candidates that apply. We may not do an extensive background check on everybody who applies, but those who are going to be given serious consideration, we will do a background check. Check their reputations, check what's going on in their district, look for any newspaper articles that have been published regarding a candidate, talk to their peers. We won't do a Bureau of Criminal Apprehension background check that early on, but we want to make sure that the individuals that we are seriously going to consider bringing forward to the board after some screening, that there isn't any skeleton in the closet that's going to embarrass you as the board or the candidate or us as a search firm. We select the group of candidates, consider preliminary screening, interviews, and I'll get to a little bit more detail on that in a second, and discuss qualifications of preliminary screening candidates and applicants with the board in order to determine the candidates to be interviewed. What we will do is we will bring a slate of candidates to you that we're recommending to you as a board of the 4 or 5 candidates that we believe have met the criteria, have met the profile that will be developed, and then you as a board will determine whether or not you want to interview those people. It's only a recommendation to you as a board. You have a chance to take a look at their applications. We will tell you what we found out about them, but it will still be your decision as to whether or not that person or persons will be interviewed. Identify with the board those elements, questions, persons, or groups which they wish to include in the interview process. If you are going to have committee structures, stakeholders, I believe that when I was here before, we talked about the fact that you're looking for an educational leader, but you're also looking for a community leader. And the more stakeholder engagement you have in that process, the more ownership individuals will have with that candidate. And hopefully with that engagement and with that ownership, the candidate is going to be somewhat, or hopefully more successful, because the community, as well as the stakeholders in the district, parents, you as a board, have some ownership regarding that candidate. Conduct those candidates who have been designated. So we do, again, all the logistics. We identify, recommend to the board, you say yes, we go with that, then we set up the logistics of the semifinalist interviews. If it's going to be committee structure, we will set up how those committees are developed, the role of the committee, the committees that will be involved as they assist the board in that process. And what we recommend is that the committee structure is only for the first round of interviews. The second round of interviews, it's with the board in a much more comprehensive process for those that are finalists. But we can talk more about that as we get through the process if you have any questions. I will be present during all interviews, both for semifinalist and finalist interviews. That is for a couple of reasons. Number one is to introduce you to the candidates, introduce you to the candidates to the committees, and also to run interference of anything that may possibly come up. In the years we've done this, we've not had any major issues, but there's always a first time for everything. So we're here. I will be here to make sure that it runs smoothly and it runs efficiently and it runs effectively, and in fact, people are engaged in the process. Notify candidates of their status after the first round of interviews if they are going to be called back, which is your decision for the final interview. One of the things that we do is that when we call a candidate back on your behalf as a finalist, we say right off bat, if this position is offered to you, are you going to accept it? Now, chances say, well, yes, I probably will. However, we have had a situation where we had a finalist and that person wanted to come in and get the job, but came and did the interviews, took the time of the board, took the time of the committee members, and then said, no, I'm not interested. I have to talk to my wife a little bit more. That's exactly what he said. So we want to be assured that the individual who's applying and is going to be a finalist for this position is interested in coming to Rocori, has done their homework, has talked to their spouse, has talked to their significant other about the possibility of having this job. Because if you're interviewing for this position, you have to go in with a mindset thinking that you are the top candidate and that you have already done your homework regarding that position. So we want to make sure that the candidates are really going to accept the position. Obviously there are minor little circumstances, but we want to make sure that we're not wasting anybody's time. And assist the board in the reaching consensus in the selection of the candidate whom the board position will be offered, and assist with contract development at the discretion of the board, if that's something the board wishes for us to do. Given the parameters, the reason that we offer that service is that sometimes you don't want to get into an adversarial relationship right away with the new superintendent. You want to keep that positive. Let us, me, be the one that would deal with the fact of somebody coming in and saying, I want $200,000 as a salary. Sorry, that just is not going to happen. And by the way, they will know that that's not realistic, but as you know, negotiations are, let's see what we can get the first round. So we will assist in any way possible in that negotiation.
Jimmy, sometimes do you set a range up front? Because I recall a situation in North St. Paul where they selected the individual and all of a sudden he said, well, I have to have this or I'm walking. And they lost, it just didn't work out. They couldn't afford it and he had expectations that were aligned. So do you kind of set a guidelines so they know?
Yes. When we initially post the position, it will be regionally competitive salary. However, when we talk to the individual, based on what you look at as far as the board goes, what that range is going to be, from X number of dollars to X number of dollars. And based on experience, based on qualifications, that's going to be variable. But yes, we do establish a range. And we tell the candidates that up front, so that they know that if they're coming in with large, grandiose expectations, it just isn't going to work. So, yes, we do set that based on the range that the board determines. I think it's important to note that this whole process is your search. I, as a consultant, am here to work with you at your discretion. How you set up the interview process, we will provide you with recommendations and suggestions, but it's still up to you 6 individuals as to how you want to structure that. So we are contracted with you. I am not here to tell you how to do it. I'm not here to tell you who to select. I'm not here to tell you how to go about the process. I work at your discretion and under your direction. The process, phase 1, is complete a leadership profile and initial advertising. Development of the leadership profile is essential in guiding the superintendent search. But that really doesn't. There are 3 questions that we ask in developing the profile. Number 1, and we ask stakeholders, you as board members and people in the community as well. Number 1, when you talk about coming from Rocori schools, what makes you proud? What's the thing that really stands out about your relationship with Rocori and the Rocori School District? Secondly, what are those leadership characteristics, attributes, dispositions that you would like to see in the next superintendent of schools of Rocori School District? And the third question we ask, what are the challenges that the new superintendent will face? So based on that, the input we're receiving from stakeholders and you as board members, we develop that leadership profile. Here are the things, and we share that with the candidates as they make application. I meet with each board member individually. That can be done face-to-face, or it can be done electronically, whatever is convenient for you as board members, to talk about the process a little more and also to get a sense of where you're coming from as a board member as it relates to the next superintendent of the schools. Engage stakeholders in the process and present the profile to you as school board members for approval. Recruiting and selection, personal invitations to individuals who meet the leadership criteria. Face-to-face recruiting is by far the best recruiting process. You can send out as many posts as you want to and notices, but it's sitting down with that individual and saying, here's a wonderful opportunity for you to advance your career. And that's Rocori Schools. Seeking nominations of potential candidates. We talked about that the last time I was here. If you know of somebody whom you would like to recommend, that you contact me if I'm the person working with you on the board, and let me do the contact. The reason that is, if a person hears from you, Shannon, that you should apply for this job, automatically they think they're in that position. And so we want to keep it out of your hands as much as possible. And we also tell all candidates, do not contact the board. They have contracted with a search firm to assist them in this process, so please do not contact the board members or the interim superintendent at this time. Now, later on in the process, certainly if they're a semi-finalist or a finalist and they know you, then they're going to be involved, they might have some discussions there. But remember, you only function as a body of 6. we cannot function as an individual on the board. Consider reputations of school leaders. We know people across the state who have excellent reputations as school leaders, and we will contact them. Conduct informal interview screenings with qualified candidates. That informal interview is that I will sit down, again, either face-to-face with each candidate that we believe meets the criteria, and somebody who we may want to recommend to you as a semifinalist. We will talk to them about the position, get a little more information other than what's on the application. We will talk to them about their experiences, their background, why do they want to come to Rocori schools? Why do they want to be the next superintendent of schools? And then also ask that question, is there anything that will embarrass you as a candidate, the school board, or the search consultants in your background? And then do some work with them, as well as finding out what their expectations are.
Jerry, you mentioned earlier about once it gets down to the semifinalists, you do a background check. Do you provide that, or how does that work?
We do, yes, we do.
Oh, is that statewide or national?
It's a Bureau of Criminal Apprehension looking for things like bankruptcy, any criminal records, anything that will come up that will be a factor. And of course, everybody's Googled nowadays. So you could do a Google search in a matter of hours and find out what's going on. The problem with a Google search, however, is that now if you Google Robichaux, that's not a very common name. But if you Google Smith, you probably have hundreds of thousands of Smiths. So you have to be very careful about that Googling, but you can narrow it down into the specific areas, but we do a more comprehensive look for those semifinalists. Phase 3, interviews and selection, present to the board a slate of semifinalists, whether that's 3 or 5, whatever your decision would be. Assist the board in develop the interview process, committees, timelines, conduct individual interviews as to call back for final interviews, and those who are not. We get to be the bad guy, if you will, in calling the person who is not selected to be called back. But we also get to be the good person to call those that are going to come back. And then assist the board in the structure of this semifinalist. Also assist the board in scheduling site visits of the finalist. If that's a process that the board wishes to use, we will help facilitate that in setting up those site visits with those places of employment. And then contact individuals not selected and assist the board in establishing a transition plan for the new superintendent if requested by the board, and assist the board in contract negotiations given those parameters that you've established. The other thing we do, before we have the semifinalist interviews, we conduct what is called a interview protocol training. That is that we will go through the do's and don'ts. Call back for
He wasn't in that smart category either.
And by the way, on the way out, I didn't shake his hand. No, I did too. So. Proposed timeline. We would post the position within 24 hours of the board appointing BKB to assist the board in the selection. By the way, this proposed timeline is for you to consider. If you think it's realistic, if BKB is identified, we will go with it. If you think it's too ambitious, we'll certainly take a look at that, because we know that a lot of the process is going to be during the summer when people are engaged in vacations. We would have a deadline to apply by June 29th, 2018. Screening of the applicants the week of July 2nd. Now, that's not you screening the applicants, that's BKB screening the applicants to bring forward the semifinalists. Semifinalist interviews the week of July 9th. Finalist interviews the week of July 16th. And appointment of a new superintendent by August 1st. I think the last time I was here, you talked about hopefully having somebody in place by the start of the school year. If not necessarily under contract, but at least identified so they can get engaged with the district prior to the start of the school. This certainly allows you that opportunity to have that person now. Flexibility, I think it's a doable timeline. I really do. I think it's going to, a couple of things. Number one, it'll give you somebody by the start of the school year. And secondly, it is ambitious enough to know that what the pool is going to be like out there. So you can make some, a personal reason why this search has to be successful is that I have a grandniece and a grandnephew that are attending the school district on open enrollment. And if this superintendent is not dynamic, is not kid-focused, is not oriented, I'm going to have to live with my niece for the rest of my life. And she's not somebody that I want on my bad side.
So Jerry, are you saying that because of open enrollment, your fee is being paid by your nieces or grandnieces?
Right. I'll tell her to pay part of the fees.
There you go.
But in all seriousness, they did a lot of shopping and looked at whether they should stay in St. Cloud or should open enroll their children to Rocori. And they made that conscientious decision along with their children. And she asked me about Rocori, and I said, you know, this was a year ago, that Rocori did not have any negative statements that I could make about Rocori, the good things out there. So anyway, that's a personal side issue of why I'd like to assist the board, and if I do assist the board, you know, darn good, well know that I'm going to be very, very dedicated to making sure that I don't have to face my niece on a regular basis. One last thing, and I'll stop, is that as of June 1, I'll be devoting full time to this search. We're not doing another search. We're not doing another district of comparable size. This is a search that we will focus our attention on, so that we're not, the candidates are not competing with another district, be that the metropolitan area or outstate. This is our search, our only search. So with that, I will open up to any questions any of the board members have.
What is the template that you found, you know, as you've done these searches, you know, and again, not that, you know, you're going to use our profile and try to figure out what we need, but have you found a certain type, you know, is it working through the ranks, teacher to principal, you know, to assistant superintendent? Is it, you know, can you find a diamond in the rough? You know, is it, you know, do you have kind of that mold that you think is the best background?
Yeah, there's a mold, and that mold is the best qualified candidate. And yeah, if you have somebody who's gone through the ranks, teacher, principal, assistant principal, principal, central office, superintendent, those individuals have a pretty good handle on what it's like to be a school leader and what are the dynamics that are in play. So that's kind of the ideal path that people want to take. However, there are those individuals who, now, you can't go from being a teacher to a superintendent of Rocori. That's just too big a jump. They don't understand all the dynamics that play out in the school leadership of superintendent. However, you can find a assistant principal who is really somebody who's dynamic, is ready for that move into the superintendency, can move into that superintendency as a quick learner. Whoever comes to Rocori, there's going to be a steep curve. Even if they have 15 years of superintendent experience, there's going to be a curve, a learning curve. But you can find that diamond in the rough, or a principal of a smaller district who's looking to move into a larger district. So yes, you can find those. But ideally, you'd like to see somebody who has a very clear career path to the superintendency.
Can you tell me a little bit about your vetting process and like helping to meet the criteria that we identify about the candidate that we want to pick, like the characteristics?
And that's what the profile does. It identifies as far as how and who the board is contracted with the search firm. We work through the Minnesota Association of School Administrators, the School Boards Association, Principals Associations. There's a couple of other organizations that we can use. The universities have posts that you can put on there We haven't had a lot of success with those. And then we will, we can do a national, the search is national once it goes on a website. Once it goes on your school district website, or once it goes on Minnesota Association of School Administrators, it becomes a national search. We can also do a broader search by putting it in Education Week, or AASA, which is the American Association of School Administrators job post. Those are not inexpensive. And I'm you get from those. But we do not have a website. We do it more face-to-face and doing contact with individuals whom we feel would be appropriate candidate for this position.
Do you charge the applicants or the potential recruits any fee?
No, no, we do not. The other thing about the first round of interviews, we have recommended to the board, and again, that's where we'll adhere to the policies, that the first round of interviews is at the candidate's expense. No matter where they come from, that's their decision. The final interviews, of course, then most boards will pay for expenses for that candidate to come for an interview. But we do not charge the candidates anything. In fact, we might buy them a cup of coffee or lunch or something, but we do not charge them anything. If there's a big distance, then what we, obviously, we can either do a Skype or what we call a WebEx or some electronic means of visiting with that person rather than just doing it over the phone. We want to physically see that person as well and get some facial reactions and those kinds of things that happen.
Is most of the stuff that if you send out information to the board, is that a lot of paper, or do you do it electronically?
There's two candidates. Why should we pick BKB versus School Exec Connect? What are you going to give us that's School Exec?
Well, first of all, I'm going to give you a search that is comprehensive, one that is outlined specifically in the executive summary as well as a proposal. We have never had a failed search, that meaning that we've had somebody who's come in and within a year they're gone. We screen the candidates extensively. We do our due diligence to make sure that those candidates that we bring forward are going to meet your standards. We also do the vetting process so that we don't have the career applier. There's somebody who's applying to every position that comes open. We also, I think probably the 7-county metropolitan area. So when we're vetting people, when I vet people, it's going to be, here are the dynamics of living in a community of Cold Springs and the Rocori School District. So that knowledge of outstate Minnesota and what that means, you probably have had people who've lived here all their life. What does that mean for this school district and this community? You don't have a large transient population as you have in some of the metropolitan areas. And what that means, that people who are committed to this school district are committed here because they've lived here all their life. Their grandkids are going to school, their kids are going to school here, and understand that dynamic. I also understand the dynamic of being a self-contained community where the activity, for example, what a beautiful night to have that activity going on over at the middle school. And I wanted to go over there, and I was going to say thank you very much, but if you want to interview me, I'll be over at the activities. Those kinds of things happening in a community. And what it means for being a member of the Rocori schools when you see those kinds of activities taking place. So understand those dynamics of a self-contained environment, where entertainment is what's happening in the schools, not Mall of America or some other activity, but the school activity is what's happening in the community. So that's what I would bring that some other organization would not bring.
Any more questions?
No? Well, thank you very much for your time again.
Sure,
And,
my pleasure.
Yeah, a lot of great information and,
I'll give you my cell number.
okay. Do you want to, I don't know if you want it on the camera.
Oh,
Do you care?
I don't care.
I do
John.
have a cell, and I
Okay.
do have, and I think, I was thinking about to this too, maybe it might be more appropriate if the board chair, once the decision is made, that you would contact them rather than me.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I will, the plan is, with the agenda tonight, that, we'll have a discussion and hopefully make a decision tonight.
Oh, you will, okay.
Yep, and so we'll let you know as soon as we are able to make that decision and get to you.
Good.
So-
I'm pleased to hear that, because given the timeline,
Yep.
the sooner that decision is made, and the sooner...
Just one more question, Jerry. If you were selected, would you be able to be here? Would you be interested in being at the board meeting on the 21st and Monday night and talking
Absolutely.
about the timeline?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Perfect.
And more detail about the process, too. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Well, great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Thank
let's have a quick recess so we
That's
can
great. Then
let
we'll-
Jerry out,
Jerry out.
and then we'll move on. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Your prep work on that, because I feel really excited about the candidates that came forward tonight, so.
Are we back on?
Oh, yeah. Yep, we're back on. Okay, perfect.
Well, I have a question, because are we on for,
Oh, okay, so now we're going to move to 4B. So we just did the 4A, we interviewed the search firms. We're going to do a quick a second discussion item, so talking about board relations. So I just wanted to wrap up that previous discussion item, but we'll move back into this for actions.
Yeah,
And
for
so-
action. This was really my agenda item that I put on, and the only reason one of the main reasons I put that on is because what we're doing tonight. Everything we do from now on is going to be very, very public, and I've had 3 people call me about the job already, really. So the first thing they always ask is, how's the board? What kind of people are they? And I tell them they're really nice people, and it's a good board, and it's a great community, and it's a place that you could live and raise a family, and really, it could be home. It could be a destination district. But I just wanted to remind you that everything we do is public, and everything they see, and they judge us by what's on the tape, not what we see until they get a chance to meet you. So that's the only thing I wanted to remind you of. And I know on the 23rd, we had a meeting that was a little bit emotional, and we had some good conversations. And so it's kind of like, we're like a good big family, I think of it as. And certain conversations are like really good public conversations to have, and certain ones my wife and I have alone. So I hope that we will consider that. And again, I'm not chastising anybody. I don't want you to think that. I'm not trying to direct you. I'm trying to support you and work with you and help you get the very best leader that you can get. And if you have anything to say, either here or when we meet privately, I'd love to hear that. Other than that, that's all I had to say.
Good. Anybody else have any comments?
Yep, I had talked to John just briefly, and Kara too, just, I think we all come from things from different angles, without a doubt, but thinking of the superintendent search that we're doing and knowing that potential candidates are going to watch exactly kind of what you shared was my thought. I had been contacted by 4 other people after our last meeting, and just thought, you guys, just respect each other. You can differ, but just respect each other. And so the more I thought about it, and then when Kara and John and Shannon and I had the opportunity to visit and tour Cold Spring, they talked about those soft skills, and that's something that I just want to make sure that we keep in front of us too, that we're exercising soft skills and being respectful of each other, even if we're on opposite sides or we need more information, but just to make sure that we're all doing our part, maybe taking a pause, whatever we need to do, and just stay respectful. Whether we're on or off camera, because I guess I feel like we need to always be the same person, no matter if a camera's on or not, is the way that I choose to kind of look at things. So,
I am proud to work here, and I'm proud of the relationship that I have with each of you, and I want to continue that. So.
Yep. Yeah, great. Well, thank you. And I just echo, I appreciate your kind comments, and I do agree that we are a great district, and I really respect everybody on the board, and think you guys are all very bright, and glad to be serving with you. So, all right, is anything else? Okay, we can move on to the discussion for approval of a search firm for hiring the new superintendent. So we get to talk about the 2 great firms that we just met with. It was a really good conversation. I'm really, again, thankful to the committee for bringing forward those candidates. And what's do we want to kind of talk about?
I was going to say, could we just kind of do like a straw poll and see where everybody's at? And then if we know y'all are supporting one or the other, it's a no-brainer. If it's 2 and 4 or whatever, then we talk about why we support one or the other.
Are you guys okay with that? That would definitely be more efficient, I think.
I think it's a good starting point.
I think it's a good starting point. Do we want to do that? Shannon, do you feel comfortable starting?
I'll start. Yeah, I think either way, we're probably in a pretty good situation. I feel good about the pluses and minuses. I think for me, Jerry probably brings some personal, part of this. He's kind of a solo act. A little bit of concern that he does have a lot of stuff going on. He's been in Norway, and he's a busy guy with a lot of things. School exec, I think, maybe has a little more support system. Maybe, again, having a website, I don't know if that deters me, but I just think their support system probably leans towards having a very clear path of how they go about doing things, all the way down to the interview process that they use at the end. And the fact that we're their only one right now, probably leads me towards the fact that they might have a little more power in the engine. And with a 2-headed monster, it helps us in case something happens. I mean, again, as we found out, this is a retired type of a career. I don't know, this might be John's next career.
No.
So it isn't part-time, but it is still something that they're doing while they're managing their second life. And I think I have a little more feeling that, with two and maybe few support people that they probably, in my book, have a little more power, but you know, I'm curious to hear what I have to say, because I think I could be persuaded fairly easily one way or
Yep,
the other.
yep.
So you're leaning
School
Or
exec,
school exec.
exec connect.
Wow.
That's okay. It's healthy.
You asked it again, just to make sure that was.
I was like, yeah. No, I agree a lot with what Shannon said, kind of for those exact same
Yeah.
reasons that he shared. What I liked are the similarities between the two, that as you guys vetted them, the three?
Us three.
So,
Yeah.
as you guys vetted them out, I mean, thank you for bringing those to us. But I feel like the school exec Connect has a little bit more of that strength that could support a little bit more, and that's my main reason. You know, looking strictly at a dollar value, of course, I would go a different direction, but I don't feel like it's that much of a change that it would really sway me in that way. But I appreciated the presentations that we heard. I learned some things. I got some notes that I want to take into the process that I gained from both, but I would lean towards school exec.
School exec, because they've done most of the central Minnesota schools, and they've got a guarantee process, so that, you know, if it doesn't work out, we've got a guarantee that they're going to continue working until we get somebody, and the fact that they also aren't going to poach on the superintendent we have for 2 contracts. I think those are my 3 points that I liked about them.
Yeah, I was leaning, both great, and I wouldn't have a problem if we went with either. So, but I think the biggest reason I would pick School Exec Connect is because I think, Shannon, you said it well, it felt like an engine, like we're gonna hit this fast, and I feel like we really need that. Not that I don't think Jerry could either, but it felt like they had the way my mind works, a very prescriptive process that has been tested. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I think, not to repeat everything, so I agree with all the points. I think those are the strong points. I think School Exec Connect, having that website, having a little more regional exposure, maybe gets us some other applicants that are potential, you know, who knows who's out there. So I think that helps. But I think, you know, just having a larger organization with that structure, and then, you know, I think they can tweak things, and not that Jerry couldn't either, but I think that extra amount is definitely a value that they bring with the resources that they would have as a larger group.
All right, Sunny.
You know, gosh, I had to go last. I wish I went first. No, everybody.
No, it's
so
okay.
Again, I think that either one of them could do a very good job for us. I lean towards the exec. My main reason is because I've had experiences with small consulting firms where a personal family situation has occurred, which halted the entire process. And at least with school exec, we know that if something like that were to occur, there are other people that can keep the process moving forward. And I think we're on a timeline, and we want to have somebody in place as close to the beginning of the school year as we can. So, I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I would.
They have a deep bench. You know, they have it's not just these 2 guys here. I know there are other players too. And I like Jerry. He's a wonderful guy, and he could do a good job. But it's like going to a sole practitioner, you know, a sole doc. And if you got a team behind you of specialists that you can call in, and they have that. And yeah, it costs a little bit more money, but it's an old saying: you kind of get what you pay for, right? So I can work with them very well, and I think they do a good job for you.
Okay.
I don't have any problem with that whatsoever.
Okay, that's good. So, I mean,
We need a motion?
Yeah, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we engage school execs as our superintendent search team.
All right, motion by Lynn.
Second.
Second by Lisa. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Wow.
All right. So I will let them both know this evening. And then it sounds like we will be able to already get this on the agenda. We still can get it on the agenda
Right.
for Monday.
We can add it on Monday.
They said they'd be here Monday, so.
Yep. And we'll get it posted. School exec connect said they'd have it posted tomorrow. So this is great. Great job. This is a great first step, and I'm really excited to work with you guys and enter into this process. So I think we've got a really good team here too to do that. So, all right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Sunny.
Second.
Second by Lynn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The meeting is adjourned.